they're not getting a second season.
They're not?
I should have saved that for in the middle so that, I mean, we did just get your reaction, but
So offended.
hello, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast. My name is Hannah.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast. Today, we will be reviewing a show called Spinning Out, which is on Netflix. So if you haven't watched it and want to, I mean, now's your chance. Pause this, go watch it, and then come back and listen. Or don't. I don't really care. But here's the recap. Spinning Out is a Netflix original show that follows the life of Kat Baker. Kat is a figure skater and has been for her whole life. She had a big fall that caused her to become scared of performing jumps while skating. In episode 1, we get to know her sister Serena, and her mother. We watch their relationships unfold, and we also get a glimpse into the world of competitive skating.
I do want to offer a trigger warning here. There is some self-harm and injuries revolving around the sport of figure skating. There's also some mental health stuff. So if that's just not something you can handle, go watch another podcast of ours. I'm sorry to have 2 in a row that offer this. The next one shouldn't. So you can wait till next week and watch that one. I just wanted that out now. Hannah, you may continue.
Well, I was just going to ask you right off the bat, what was your opinion of the show?
I love this show so much. I've already seen the whole series prior to this, and I don't know. I love the writing because just in episode 1, we get so many storylines introduced that, I don't know, it just feels like I watched a movie that has a sequel, right? Like it's about 50 minutes of actual content, and so much happens and is set up in this pilot. I think it's a fantastic pilot for one, but it's just so much is crammed into it in a way that doesn't feel rushed. Like it feels like they spent time on these storylines and actually, like, I don't know, gave it some thought and set it up the whole show. And I'm obsessed with it because there are so many shows that have like 1 or 2 storylines in an episode, which sometimes you do only like some of the episodes you do just need like 1 storyline, but it never felt boring to me. What about your opinions?
That was the second time I've watched episode 1. And once again, that is the second time I've thought that is as far as I would want to watch. I rate it overall a 6 out of 10. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's definitely not the best thing I've ever seen. It's not that it's not interesting, but it's also not exciting in my opinion. I think that, like you said, there's multiple storylines, so there is information to be taking in, and there's like thoughts to be having about what could happen with these different people. But I don't know if it's the actors, I don't know if it's the writing, I don't know if it's all of it. I just was not interested to watch more, except for when I was doing some Googling searches. I found out that Jonathan Van Ness is in it, and I just want to watch just the episodes where he's in it because I love JVN so much.
I started watching the second episode. Spoiler, Jonathan Van Ness is for sure in the second episode. So, and within the first like 10 minutes. So don't worry. I don't remember them being in long term. I barely remembered Jonathan Van Ness being in it at all. And for people who don't know or remember who that is, they're one of the people in Queer Eye that we watched and reviewed earlier, that version of it. And so if you loved that, you're going to love the episode because, oh my gosh, it was so funny. They're the figure skating choreographer. Okay. And the 2 people who have to deal with him are like one of them is obsessed and the other one's like, he's expensive, right? And they're like, yeah, very expensive. Okay, that's all I needed to know, because he's like crazy and has really weird ways of getting them like in the vibe of whatever they're supposed to do for figure skating. So that's all I know from the second episode so far. It's so funny.
Well, maybe I'll have to start the second episode just to see JVN in action because I love them. But I guess fun fact then related to JVN and me not knowing people's names. Who's Serena's instructor's name?
Mitch.
Okay, Mitch and JVN, I think it's Mitch at least, are the only two people in the whole show that actually perform their skating. Like whatever they can do is what they do. I know for sure JVN, I can't remember who the other one is, but the other person who I believe it's Mitch was an actual Olympian, which is their character in the show too, is that they were an Olympian. And so I think that he's the one. Otherwise, everyone else could skate onto the ice and skate off, but all the tricks and everything else that you're seeing is just other skaters. The girl who plays Kat had 4 skating doubles. And some of the tricks, like Serena, the girl who plays Serena, for example, she was like, not me and my job, or like, I don't remember how she said it, but so she was in front of a blue screen and she was laying on her stomach on this platform thing, and someone was on the ground spinning her around. And like that was how they like got her head to be like moving how it should be for one of the tricks.
So they like Black Swan. Have you
Mm-hmm.
seen that movie or heard of it, where they put, I think it's Natalie Portman's face on the ballerina or something?
Yeah.
I was like, they must have found figure skaters that just could act. Holy crap, great job, everybody. Like, I'm literally blown away. Go watch the video during the time Hannah was just speaking, and just, I literally was floored because I didn't even Google it. I don't even have to look that up, because obviously watching this, holy crap, like at least the person who plays Kat must be, oh my gosh, I'm literally floored right now.
I was surprised. And another surprising fact about that too is one of the people who portrays Kat in, because there's like someone who does jumps, someone who does the normal skating, and then there's two who are, which spoiler, obviously I don't know because I haven't watched the whole show, but she ends up with this guy Justin being a skating partner with him. She
Mm.
must, because and then she has 2 body doubles that do the lifting poses or routine things. So just because I read that, I assume that she does end up pairing with Justin unless it's someone else. But one of the people who portrays Kat, I think it's the jumping one, is also portraying Serena in jumps or the other skating. And if you watch the show, you watch, I mean, completely different hair colors, completely different body types. So it's interesting that they could have someone play both of them.
Yeah, I mean, they must be putting their heads on them, but like, yeah, how are they? What the heck? That's so weird. I literally don't believe this for 1 second. Like, that's how shocking this is to me. If you watch the show, they do such a good job at morphing it or doing whatever the heck they do behind the scenes in post production, whatever. They're doing a fantastic job. Holy crap. So, real quick, the end of the episode, right? You saw where that Mia chick shows up and is going to be Justin's new partner while Kat's like driving to the rink. Okay. And going to be like, I'm going to be Justin's partner. I literally was like, is she too late? Oh my gosh. But then literally the opening of the next episode, because it's really not that big of a spoiler, you're going to literally find out in 1 second after the next episode, is that Kat is waiting for Justin and she sees Mia come out and Mia's like, no hard feelings, whatever. Even though I kind of feel like she's going to be kind of catty and whatnot. So I'm not going to say any more about that. But okay. One, the show is created and directed and written by a lot of women. And I love that. Okay. A woman named Samantha Stratton created it. She's also a TV writer. And they had a woman director, at least for the first episode. And I don't know, I could kind of it's like sometimes you can just feel it, right? When a woman directs something because they're dealing with a sport that can be sexualized and whatnot. And I don't feel like any of these people are like sexy. I think maybe Jen is the only one that is like trying to be sexy and stuff like that. But the rest of them are just like living their life. And I think the woman playing Serena, like Serena wants to be sexy, or Carol, the mom, wants to be sexy, but they're not like, when I look at them, I'm not like, oh gosh, like look at what they're wearing and all the makeup and like all these things of like whoever put them in this stuff. Like, what are they trying to do and things? It's like you can just tell by their body language. And Serena's like 18 or something, I think. She's kind of like on the cusp.
I
She's
think she might even be younger. Well, maybe not, because something that was surprising to me is Kat is taking what's called her senior test, but she's also 21. So like at
Mhm.
first you're thinking, oh, senior test, like you're probably 17, 18 because like a senior in high school, but she's 21. And I could have sworn senior tests in the skating place around here were taken when you're literally a senior, not when you're older. So that confused me, but maybe I just have my knowledge wrong. And because, you have like senior recitals or things like that. So why wouldn't a senior test be when you're quite literally a senior in high school, unless it's
Yeah.
senior in college? But I
I
don't
think
know,
it's just levels of figure skating.
which I do understand. But I just thought that they like correlated. Maybe they
So,
normally do. And she was knocked out from the fall because her fall, like I mentioned, she had a big fall that makes her scared of performing jumps. She fell and basically broke open her head and was bleeding all over the ice. And so
that
she had to
was
recover from that.
bad. Like, that was intense, and I'm like, no wonder she like is scared of jumps and stuff. I mean, she literally had stitches and cracked her head open and all of this stuff. Like, like that's like one of the few things that does make me like cringe a bit. But yeah, it says there are specific levels designated for adults age 21 and older, but adults may choose to test and compete at standard levels. Learn more about adult testing here. On average, it takes skaters 6 years to pass their senior moves in the field test and 8 years to pass their senior freestyle test. But that is like a separate thing than so free dance and solo free dance, I'm guessing, is what Kat does. And the levels are juvenile, intermediate, novice, junior, and senior. So it's just based on how good you are. And so she's very good, but she couldn't pass her senior test because of this accident. Otherwise, she probably would have and been going to like the Olympics or something crazy.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I wonder. So, one of my employers was a figure skater growing up, and I don't know how far she went, or I know she was in competitions and she was for like all of her childhood, but I wonder what level she got to because she loves watching skating still. Like, if you ever go by a TV, it's either that or like some cooking show, which is awesome. And so maybe I'll ask her about that and if she's ever seen this show.
This show sets up a lot of stuff. So we see that Kat is very responsible. She's the one waking Serena up in the morning. She's the one, making sure she's eating properly, but not forcing her to do anything. We see that she takes some sort of pills in the morning and that she works and that her mom can't afford her coaching any longer. So those are like the big things that are set up right away. And her mom is like really a try hard and very much spending a ton of time on Serena right now. And there seems to be this animosity towards Kat. And we don't know why until near the end when this big like problem happens. But we kind of figure it's just because Kat's out of the running basically to do anything since she can't jump anymore. But that's not the case. But she's like forcing Serena to eat all these eggs and like protein and carbs and all of these things to like, which is good. Like she's not forcing her to not eat. I mean, like that's at least good, because we saw in the gymnastics documentary that very high tense competition, and like going to the Olympics, your coaches and people around you could be very detrimental to your health in one way of not letting you eat. But I mean, if she's just going to get sick, like she said, if she eats all that stuff in the morning right before she goes, like that's not healthy either, and could form an unhealthy relationship with food that could cause her to, you know, have some sort of, problem eating or anything like that. So that's also not good. And Kat is just like trying to be the mother figure or the responsible one. And it's kind of sad because she's 21 and she shouldn't have that responsibility on her right now.
Yeah, so the three of them live together, and it does seem like Kat is basically the mom. And we do find out towards the end of the episode what's going on with the mom. At first, you kind of are led to believe that she's an alcoholic. Wouldn't you agree? Because she's on the couch, what looks like she's passed out, and Kat is like picking up the beer bottles before she goes and wakes up Serena. And before she even does that, she's been out running in the snow and on ice, and then she falls down and she hits her hand, and it like flashes to her busting open her head, and her brains are gonna come out of her head. Just kidding, they don't, but there's a bunch of blood. And then she goes inside, and that's when she's picking up the beer bottles, and the mom's passed out on the couch. Then she goes to wake up Serena, and she and Serena are talking, and then the mom wakes up like nothing's happened. So you're wondering, like, oh, is she actually hungover? Like, could she still be drunk? But then later we find out that she suffers from bipolar disorder, and that she has not been taking her lithium, is specifically what they say that she takes to help regulate her brain. I don't know much about bipolar disorder, so I can't tell you what the medication does exactly, but it helps to regulate her feelings, I would assume. I could be wrong though. So we find out that Kat also has bipolar disorder, and that is the medication that she was taking in the morning. But the mom also said that she's looking like she's about to have an episode, which, if you watch the way she acts from the beginning of the episode to the end, I would say there is a shift in the way she's acting and like the way she's presenting herself. So to me, it does seem like she's about to have some sort of breakdown or episode, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know if she starts to have an episode because, like I said, I've never watched past episode one. But to me, it does appear that she's about to have something go off.
I would say that every time that she does have an episode or is about to have an episode, those are the times that she goes and bites herself, I would say. I think that's kind of a sign of her relapsing into those damaging behaviors that she has. But she is taking her medication, or at least supposedly. Like, I think she really is. We see her taking them, but I don't know if she's also taking, there's another medication that her sister brings up that's like this speed medication or something that makes her really manic, and she's like, I'm not taking that or something. So that's all set up, and that's Kat has inherited that from her mother, where Serena seems to not have. Serena, they just say, is a bitch sometimes. So it doesn't seem like it's for any reason. Like, she's not irritable from anything or going through an episode of any sort. She just is a teenager that is popular and sucks and doesn't care about others' feelings every once in a while. So we see Kat go to work. She works at the ski lodge that's in the same area as the skating rink and everything. They live in like this small town in Idaho, and it looks like it's like on top of a mountain. It looks gorgeous. And she works there, and we see her interact with this guy, Marcus, who, I'm sorry, but if they don't get married, like, I don't know what to say. Like, they looked so cute, just their little interaction. And you could tell that he really liked her. And I don't know if she likes him at all, but I think she's like nervous about it and doesn't know maybe what her feelings are. And so she does not want to like tread in that territory at all. But she also has a boyfriend, I will say. She has a boyfriend, which was shocking. I was like, oh my gosh, what? And so that's also part of it. And so he is about to like confess his feelings for her, but like, work happens, and then the owners end up in her section and all of this stuff. And is this right after her coaching test that we see that, or is that the second time?
I'm pretty sure it's right after her failed senior test.
Yeah, and so now because she's failed her senior test, she can't coach. Okay, so she is doing wonderfully. Everyone is obsessed. We see this one woman, random woman watching her from the crowd that we haven't seen. All these people are watching her test. Like I said, they're like enamored by her. She's so fantastic, except when she goes to do a big jump, she chickens out or trips and fall. Like she doesn't fall, I don't think, in it, but she really staggers and totally just doesn't go for it at all. And that's really sad because she fails. And there's not another test until 6 months later, which apparently is like too late, whatever that means. I think she's just maybe tired of trying, is my guess, because there's not really like an age limit on coaching. So I think also it doesn't help that her mom said she can't afford to pay for both of their coaching anymore. So she would just have to be working on her own. And when you're afraid of something, just making yourself try to do it isn't going to help really, like, especially if you've been kind of trying with a coach or with support. I don't think doing it alone will get you any more ground. So I think she just was at the point of like, I quit. This is awful. I'm not skating anymore. And then she meets the owner of the ski lodge. Do you want to go into that?
Right after she fails her senior test, we see her go into the locker room and she's pretty shaken up and upset, obviously, because she knows what just happened. And that's when she does self-harm, where she bites her arm, which before she takes her test, we watch her cover it up with makeup. And then afterwards, we see her bite and, it's bleeding. And then the woman that Rachel was talking about shows up in there and says that she wants her to be a partner, double, whatever, with Justin, wants her to be Justin's pair. And she's like, I can help you. I don't remember what she said. You're nervous or shy about jumping. And then Kat's like, no, I'm terrified. And she's like, give me 2 years. I can get you to the Olympics, basically, is what she's saying.
Yeah, to nationals, which I think is like right before the Olympics where they can pick your team, or it's one of the big competitions when the Olympics aren't going on. And
Yeah.
also Justin is this super rich buff, like definitely like the hot guy, but he's also like one of those like douchey frat boy type people. Like he's cast to be like the guy everybody wants. I mean, Kat's friend Jen, who's hilarious, I'm obsessed with her. She is obsessed with Justin and thinks he's hot, and like, oh, there's a rumor that he, sleeps with every skating partner he has, and like he goes through his partners really fast and all of this stuff. So there's that. And his most recent partner just injured herself. Her skate went in her foot. Okay, I'm gonna say that quietly and y'all can just
Which we got to see happen.
yeah, except we didn't see it actually in a body part. It was through the skate, so it was a little less graphic, but there was still blood, and it did make me cringe a bit. Like, I am not a cringy person when it comes to injuries, but every once in a while I'm just like, it's so realistic that it freaks me out, I think is the reason. And her skate went through her foot and it was really gross. And that was it. And so she quit. Apparently it wasn't like damaging enough for her to like not be able to do it anymore, I guess, but she quit, which same girl. Same.
And also, that made me think of other injuries, which Jen has an injury to her hip. And this is another time where, just like we talked about in Athlete A, I can't remember her name, but she performed a vault on a sprained ankle or broken ankle, whatever it was. And she landed on one foot so that she could land. We see this where she's being told by the doctor, like, you need to sit out for 3 months. And she's like, nationals are in 3 months. Like, I can't do that. And he's like, yeah, well, it could be then that you're not just having trouble skating. Like, you're not going to be able to walk if you keep going on this injury. And we see these little girls who are like 6 years old taping up their feet because, they're already getting ripped open. And that's just the way it is, because that's what you do. Like, I know dancers, I had friends who did point and their toes would just be like ripped open, bleeding, but that's just what you did. You just went through the pain. And I saw someone else recently, they posted it was a video on YouTube, and, like, in it, they were walking around New York, and one of them puts, like, 3 Band-Aids on the back of her heel because she had such bad blisters, and it made me think that a lot of times, and I'm not saying guys don't do this too, but a lot of times women are just taught to, like, deal with the pain, like, "Oh, you have blisters from high heels? Well, put something on it to cover it up. Your feet hurt from these dance shoes, who cares? You gotta keep going. Oh, your head hurts from this really high, tight ponytail you're wearing, who cares? You gotta wear it anyway." I don't know, and obviously guys are taught to endure pain too, but I think there's just a difference because we don't see Justin, at least not in the first episode, being like, "Oh, my feet are all blistered," or whatever. It's all focused on the female aspect of the injuries that they have.
Yeah. So here's I don't know, my analysis of it is, beauty is pain, but like physically. Okay. Women are allowed to cry. They're looked as weak still if they do, but like women are allowed to have emotions, just not in the workplace. Please keep that somewhere else. This is a man's world. Um, but beauty is pain. So all this physical stuff that we see is what we're taught. But I would say that men probably have an emotional pain that they have to endure, and they're not allowed to show emotions. I know someone literally said the first time I saw my husband cry was this, and I was like, the first time and the only time? Like, because they said the first and only time. I was like, and you were married at the time? Like, I don't know. I just don't I want an emotionally intelligent boyfriend and husband and whatnot that is willing to cry when something is painful for them, whether it's physical or emotional, and be there to comfort them. And I think that's what they're taught. And we kind of see a little bit of Justin dissociating from stuff in this. So, like, there is some sort of pain he's feeling that obviously he's just, pushing back with women and alcohol, it seems like, if those rumors are true. Seeing him abuse alcohol and abusing his dad's money, and like it, I wonder. And look, this is me speculating at this point because I don't remember a lot. I only remember one specific storyline, where it goes. But this, I'm wondering if, he these people just want to be his friend because his dad owns the place, or because he's rich, or because like needs to feel like he's popular, or people wouldn't like him if he wasn't rich, or people wouldn't like him if he wasn't so talented and things like that. See his dad make like a homophobic comment when Kat's waiting on them. When my first wife brought Justin into the skating world, I was worried he was going to be, gay, but he, uses a more derogatory way of saying that. And I was like, okay, so there's something there. That relationship's not great, but his new stepmom, literally obsessed with her, literally love her. I do remember she is fantastic. She is one of my favorite
Good.
characters.
I couldn't tell if she was being fake or real. So
Mm.
I'm happy to hear that she's actually nice the whole
Oh my
time.
gosh. My heart, literally, every time I see her, I'm like, because this is one of the things that I love when shows or movies flip a stereotype on their head. Okay. Because she's the young, hot wife, of this older, rich man. I mean, he's not old. He's probably like 40s or 50s, right? But she's probably like 30s, right? Not that much older than Justin, and I'm just obsessed because she is super kind and warm and welcoming and loves Justin for who he is. And like, because they're being like jerks kind of. And when Kat is waiting on their family, the dad is like, oh yeah, I heard that you might be skating with Justin, you're looking for a partner. I think that'd be great. And like forcing it on her, not waiting for her to answer. And so she eventually just like leaves. And the stepmom had like followed her out and is like, it looked like you were gonna wring his neck. And let me say, if I didn't love him so much, I would have too. Like, and I know Justin's a jerk. Like, she's so honest, and it can come across as fake. You're so worried because that stereotype is there. And I love that they flipped it because I'm so happy with that character now. And I love nice characters. I just like relate to them so much, or like or like identify, I want to be them, and things like that. So I love her.
Yeah, she's really awesome. And I guess I don't know if we ever made it clear, but Justin's really rich and his family's the one that does own the ski lodge. And Rachel said something about trying to numb out, or like we see him disassociate maybe with like his reality. And he goes into the bar part with all these guys and he's like, have whatever you want. It's on my dad. And then he sits down with a beer and kind of just like is away from the crowd and is sitting there. But then this girl walks in. That's the girl that Rachel already talked about. Don't remember her name, but she shows up, who's apparently going to be Justin's new skating partner. And she's from, I don't know, like California or something. But I guess switching all the way back to the beginning of the episode, I think what started me off not liking the show was that the intro was like 2 minutes long. No talking, no singing. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst. It's like a montage of all these people skating and just like all the names going across the screen. I swear I checked like 4 times just to make sure I wasn't somehow at the end of the episode. I was like, why is this happening? I don't get it. I don't like it. And then that is probably, if there wasn't that, maybe I would have been more like, oh, like the rest of the episode seems better. But I think because that's how it started, I was already like, okay, I'm done. Like that's 2 minutes too long. I'm over it. But
But
I don't know.
do you think it's also, and tell me if you disagree with me here, but isn't Kat kind of unlikable?
Absolutely. I don't like her. I think like right away I was thinking if Jen was the main character, I would have liked it a lot more. I don't think Serena's likable. I don't think the mom Carol's likable. I think that the coach that's trying to get Kat to be the partner to Justin is very intriguing. And like even if it was from her point of view, she seems to be very interesting. But Kat does not seem likable at all.
Yeah, I like that she's different both in her look and in her character. I like that, but it is really hard because it's like I want something right at the beginning to make me either want to know more about her or want to be her. Those should be like the two things you set up: want to know more, want to be. Basically, can you relate to them, or can you at least find something interesting about them to keep you watching? And I don't think that's there at the beginning. She's running in the snow, which, by the way, whoever was the costume designer here was an idiot, because I've ran in the snow so many times in North Dakota, and you wear a hat and or mittens or a little headband that covers your ears, for your hair to still be like out in a ponytail, all this stuff. You wear that, and it literally she must have been freezing because they were definitely outside in a real cold place. I don't know where they were shooting, probably Canada.
Toronto.
So it was actually cold. I'm sure a lot of that is real snow because you could see the way she was breathing. There's actual like the smoke coming out because of the air being so cold. She wasn't wearing any ear protection or hand protection. Like, girl, that was the most okay. Even if she had a hat on, I would believe it more because she does need to cut her hands. So I understand like that part. But put on something over those ears, you're going to get sick and you're going to die. I understand the skating rink is cold, but outside the actual elements is much more dangerous.
Yeah, and it's very cold. And maybe they were just trying to get the point across that, like, oh, she's a figure skater, she's immune to the cold. But, like, no, you're not, especially when you're running, moving. And then if there's some wind happening, it's just nope, you need some head protection for sure. And yeah, I've gone on runs too, and you always have the little headband or a hat, and you definitely need gloves. And yeah, you'll probably end up sweating inside them like you always do, but you need to have the protection on. Otherwise, you're just exposed, and you usually have more layers on. I felt like she didn't even have that many layers. I felt like I would always have more layers on.
It depends on like if you're cold naturally all the time too, right? Like you're freezing in 75-degree weather. So now I remember like in the dead of winter, like if it's really like negative 35 or worse and windy, I would have a jacket over maybe 2 long sleeve shirts, but only like one pair of pants usually, unless it was like the morning, and then I would wear maybe a pair of leggings with another pair over it, like a lighter pair, just to have 2 layers. But a lot of the time in the winter, I would just wear 2 long sleeve shirts, like regular cotton long sleeve shirts. So that I was like, okay, that I'm just gonna ignore whatever else she's wearing. But girl, put on a hat, put on a headband, put on some earmuffs. You live in Idaho, you know this. So whoever wrote this, Samantha Stratton, if you're from LA, you gotta just think a little bit harder.
It's cold is cold and it means business. I don't know if Rachel's going to put it in at some point or not, but I spoiled right away that they're not getting a second season. It was within a month, I think, of it being released that it was announced that they are not going to get a second season. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it didn't do well. I don't know if there wasn't a budget. I literally have no clue. All I know is that season 2 is not coming, at
Which
least
is
not at the moment.
which is literally the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't know why either, because they ended on such a cliffhanger. And I was like, second season right now, come out right now. And the fact that they're not getting one makes me so sad because this series I really loved. I loved it. So I don't know if people just felt the same way as Hannah and were like, Kat is unlikable and the stuff that's going on just doesn't intrigue me enough or what, but it made me
I think
sad.
that's the reason I didn't like it is the whole cat thing. I think if they had a different person as the main character, I would be more interested because I'm interested in figure skating. I was a figure skater. I never wanted to do competitions, but I did find them interesting. And so I think that if there was a more likable character as the lead, I would have wanted to watch more. But I think that I think you solved the mystery. That's the reason why I didn't want to watch any further.
Yeah, and I watched the first episode and I think just the idea of like wanting to know what the next step is did intrigue me enough, but I don't think it was because I cared about her. So we find out at some point when I there's this moment where Carol, the mom, has her own version of an episode. She wakes up in the middle of the night and goes into Serena's room. Kat is over at her boyfriend's college dorm, so she's not home. And Carol wakes up Serena in the middle of the night and is like, get up, we gotta run laps, you gotta work out, you gotta, you'll never make it to nationals if you don't do this stuff. And she's like forcing her to like overwork out, do push-ups and run around the block. And Serena calls Kat while her mom's out doing something or getting something prepared and is distracted. And she comes over and finds Serena and Carol outside. Serena's wearing like nothing warm enough to be outside, and she's doing like push-up claps, and is just doing it. And Kat has to stop. Carol's like, "Look at what you're doing to her. You're hurting her." And Serena like re-sprained her wrist from it, and all of this stuff. And Kat gets after her mom for not taking her medication. I mean, it's part of it is because the lithium makes them feel like they're kind of swimming in an in-between. I know they say that in either this episode or the next episode. And she that's probably the reason Carol's not taking her, doesn't want to, because she doesn't feel like herself. And I know some people who are on different medications, maybe for ADHD or for depression and stuff, they feel similar ways because of the way it interacts just with themselves. And that is how Kat has said she felt. And I'm guessing Carol feels some sort of way where she feels hindered by taking it, or she just doesn't like being on it so much because it just is a reminder that there's something wrong in quotations with her. And so Kat has to be the mom again, take care of everybody. And there's a fight soon after that. I don't know when the fight is between her and her mom, but we find out that Kat was the baby that Carol had while she was still figure skating. So she got pregnant and it kind of ruined her chances of going to the Olympics. And she blames Kat for it instead of either herself or it sounds like she was sleeping with a coach. I don't know if it was consensual. I don't know if there's the power dynamic made it that a very gray area on whether it could be consensual. And I don't know if she was being abused by this coach or what. I don't know if they talk about it more and I'm not remembering, or if we just don't know anything else about that. But it sounds like Kat is the baby of Carol and this coach. And she doesn't go to the Olympics because of having to take off time for being pregnant. Kat knows this. She knows that this is why we find out there's this animosity between the two of them. Like I said earlier, we think it might be because she's scared of jumping, she's failing, she's not able to do what she used to do, which still, like, you shouldn't love one daughter more because one got injured and is now scared of something. Like, that's still wrong. But now we find out there's an even deeper reason for her kind of hate for her daughter. And during this fight, Carol tells Kat to leave. She does. Carol throws all of her trophies away. Serena notices and is like, what is going on? She's like, since everything that I did for her is trash, so is this. And Kat drives over. Where does she go at night? Does she go stay with Dave, which is her
Well, it
boyfriend?
looks like she's gonna go to Dave because she says that she's like she texts Dave saying that she's gonna move with him to where are
London.
they going? London.
So
I
he
was
got
gonna
an
say China.
internship. He got an internship that she finds out about when she goes over to his place. And when she was there, when Serena was doing push-ups and stuff in the middle of the night.
Yeah, so you assume that that's where she's going, is going to go be with him because she packed her bag and like that's just what you think. And then she's driving and she throws her skates out the window. And then eventually she turns around and goes and gets them and then starts driving. And it ends the episode with her driving into a place called Sun Valley, I think is what it said. Sun something. Um, so I didn't realize that she was going to the ski lodge, actually. I thought that she was just gonna disappear. That's what I was like, oh, she gone. Okay, cool. End of
Never to
story.
be seen again.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. It ends with her driving, and it looks like she's like, I've changed my mind. I'm going to be a skating partner. But that's right after we found out that Mia's going to be Justin's new partner. And I'm like, no, it's too late. Luckily, it's not too late, but her new partner is very funny. I like him a lot. Um, but when she got out of the car to go get her skates, when Kat got out and then went back into her car, I literally wrote down, I miss the feeling of being outside in the snow and then getting into a warm car. Like knowing that it was running and that that heater is blasting. I was like, that's just, it's like a comforting feeling of like when you're so cold and then you go somewhere so warm. Oh my God. I love it.
I mean, currently in that, so I don't know if I can say I love it. I mean, I always am very appreciative of the fact that I have a heater because if I didn't, oof, one winter actually I remember I was going to work one morning when I was working at a photography studio and we were going to take school pictures at one of the elementary schools in town. And the whole drive there, I was like, damn, my heater is just like not warming up fast enough. But it's probably because it's like -20 outside, whatever. So then after work, when I was driving away in my car again, it just like wasn't warming up. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I just like need to spend more time in my car. So I was driving around and no, my heater was broken and it was like -20. And so there was like snow inside my car. I was like, what is my life right now?
It is so much better to be without an air conditioner than without a heater if you live in a cold place, especially a place that gets cold like 6 months out of the year. I don't know if you're listening to this about 1 week ago by now. Um, we got lots of snow in North Dakota. Hannah's living it. I'm wishing I was living it for at least a week. Maybe I would want to be living in a place that just had a blizzard. But yes, it did blizzard in North Dakota about a week ago from the time you're listening to this podcast. It was a day or two ago from the time we're recording it?
Yeah, it was yesterday and the day before.
Oh my gosh. And my mom sent me a picture. It's looking lovely. It is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I don't know. Can you see it out your window right now, or do you not have a good
I
view?
I can. I mean, I'm in front of an egress window, so I see steps that are covered in 3, 4 inches of snow.
Oh, my heart. I love it. So I mean, it is cooler here than it has been. It's like 65. I know that's not comforting at all to Hannah to hear that.
It's 25 here.
Loving that for you. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that I knew the feeling and it felt extremely nostalgic watching her dig out her skates and then be in the freezing cold and then get to her very warm car. Which, by the way, I'm obsessed with her car because it looks like a piece of junk and
It
I love
did. I love that too. Because especially coming from the background of like the money that she has, her mom saying she doesn't have money to pay for her coaching anymore. Obviously, you're not going to have like some fancy schmancy car. But the one thing I didn't like in regards to that is the fact that they live in like a nice house. Like the interior is really nice. And if you don't have a lot of money, when you're spending most of your money on skating and the lessons, costumes, whatever else, the medical bills that you have in relation to skating, the interior of your house just is not going to look like that, you know?
it. Shouldn't look like an interior designer was there or that it shouldn't look anything like somebody who knows that your picture frame should be the same color and like that you have, you don't have a blank wall or that you don't have a wall full of family photos. Like, I don't know. It definitely didn't seem like a lived in house, you know?
Yeah.
Which, if any of y'all have seen the show The Middle, they're perfect at making it look like an actual lower middle class show or lower middle class family living in, a random town in Indiana. And it looks very lived in. It looks like the people that they are embodying, and I love it.
Two other shows that I think have good interiors are a show on Netflix called The Ranch. I believe that
Mm,
theirs looks exactly how it would. And I would also argue that the Fosters, the inside of their house looks
yeah.
very lived in.
Yeah, it's like right on the cusp of like unrealistic, but they explain that they got the house due to like an early inheritance thing. So that's why they live in like literally the biggest, most beautiful house on a police officer's salary and a like
Principal.
principal salary. So I mean it is a private school, like or like a charter school or whatever they call it, but still not realistic. But that's how they explain it. So that makes sense. And I love that show, so they can't do anything
Me
wrong.
too. I know. Okay, well, back to this episode. I don't think I have a single word left to say on the show. Do you have anything else to say?
No, just that I'm gonna be crying myself to sleep tonight, knowing that I will never know the result of this season because it leaves on such a cliffhanger. Just literally go to the last episode, Hannah, and skip to like the last 4 minutes and just tell me that you wouldn't be mad that there wasn't a second season.
Okay.
So I am done. So I'll go through our social media. Please follow us on Instagram at youtalkingtome.podcast. Next week, we will be having our live on the 28th. So please tune in for that. It's going to be earlier this week. So watch out or it's going to be earlier that day. So watch out on our Instagram for the exact time. But you can always watch it later on our Instagram feed on IGTV.
And it'll be
And
a collaboration.
yeah, we're going to be collabing with another podcast of people that I actually know. One of them I went to high school with and ran cross country with him. And it's one of his friends that he ran with in college. And so we're going to collab, and I'll spoil a little bit. We're going to be watching a running movie. Shocker. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And it should be very exciting. Follow us on Twitter at youtalkingtome11 because we're both number one. Go email us suggestions or comments or reviews or whatever you want in relation to this podcast at youtalkingtomepodcast at gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos, comment, leave reviews on all of the podcast sites that allow it, and just
Hit the little notification bell so you get notified every single time we post, because sometimes it's not on Mondays and sometimes it's at a different time. So
calling me out, but it's fine. No, just kidding. Yes, always keep an eye out for any updates in case there is a change to our schedule, but it is mostly on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern. So thank you for listening. That's all.
My name's Hannah.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.